right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over in a short amount of time, and again, there's a lot here. Today, we did not do a news update, so this is going to be everything compacted into one video. And again, let me make sure that we can put this up on screen. I don't know why it's not showing up there, so hold on one second. Let's see here. Essentially, we're going to talk about China here. Well, while we do that, in fact, let's bring in Dex / my internet brother and co-host. Dex, do you want to pop in early while I fix this real quick?
Certainly. Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I hope everybody's doing well tonight.
So let's see here if I can do this. There we go. All right, so it should be good right there. Yeah, okay. I don't know why it is all missized, though. Okay, that's fine, though. We've got it in general. I don't know what the heck happened here. My cat stepped on the keyboard? Either way, well, I'll zoom out here. We don't need to be zoomed in anyways. Something is rotten in the imperial court of Chairman Xi Jinping. Now, this is important. This first part, again, this is something I'm going to talk about over the next couple of days, and I'm going to be doing a live tomorrow or a video. I don't know if I'm going to edit it, but there's a lot of really crazy stuff here. It says, well, the world is distracted by the war in the Middle East and Ukraine. A Stalin-like purge is sweeping through China's ultra-secretive political system with profound implications for the global economy and even the prospects for peace in the region. The signals emanating from Beijing are unmistakable, even as China's security services have ramped up repression in totalitarian levels, making it almost impossible to know what is really happening inside the country. I'm going to get back to that point, too. The unexplained disappearance and removal of China's foreign and defense ministers, both Xi loyalists who were handpicked and elevated mere months ago, these are the guys that they actually put in, have now disappeared months before, and now they're missing earlier this year. So, again, there's a lot of these examples, and there's even more. They also have other high-profile victims, include the generals in charge of China's nuclear weapons program, and some of the most senior officials overseeing the Chinese financial sector. Several of these former Xi acolytes have apparently perished in custody. The reason why this is important, and there's a lot of really weird stuff going on inside of China over the last couple of years. We have covered a ton of it. As far as, first of all, every phone is connected with a name and with basically a social. And during CV times, there were thousands of essentially these cell phone numbers that just disappeared, meaning the people also just kind of got wiped off the map, or vice versa. The people just got wiped out and the cell phones. Now, back then, everybody was saying it was because of the CV. Now, people are questioning if that was for some other reason. The officials that they put in and then just disappear, I don't think that these guys are getting offed. In some cases they are, but I'm wondering if they are being secured because they are doing something. Now, if you look at all of the gentlemen who have disappeared, they're all in very specific places, and maybe they are part of a very important thing, and they are keeping them completely separate from the world and want to make sure that these are basically VIPs, and they know something that they don't want anybody to know about. To me, this is an action that it almost looks like they're planning a big event or some sort of strike. I'll explain that more this week, too, and why I think that this plays into other things that are going on. But they're essentially saying that Xi is paranoid and that he's getting rid of all these people. This is the same thing that we saw with Vlad, how they wrote and how they looked at his actions. Now, Vlad, on the other hand, in Russia, if you do the wrong thing, you'll fall off a 50-story building. In this case, it's a lot stranger because we actually don't hear about this much in China, and it probably happens, but we don't hear about it. So why are we hearing about it? And where did these guys go? So we're going to talk about this and much, much more tonight on Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, so let's see. I think maybe if I shrink it a little bit more. I don't know what the heck happened with this. Here, hold on. There we go. I just might have to resize it every time. That kind of sucks. Either way. So thank you, everybody that has made it here today. It is a live show, so anything can happen. In fact, usually the show is always 15 minutes after that start time, so people can gather in the chat. But we were for a few minutes late today because the video was not working. So thank you, everybody, for being patient. And again, I might have to do some resizing all during the show if I can't fix this. It's harder to fix things once you're live. If you know, then you know. So before we get started, just remember you can always find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document over on marfooglenews.com. When you go there, you'll see that you have every single article, tweet, video, picture, document right there at your fingertips. Just click on today's thumbnail, which is this, and you will find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document right there at your fingertips. That is also archived and searchable, so you can actually use that for later. It is a very useful tool. If you guys don't mind here, let me see if I can, I don't know what the heck happened. That actually takes that's hard to screw up. That's not something a cat could do. So hold on. This is going to bug me the entire show. Nope, it's not. Oh, there we go. Let me see. There we go. Maybe that will help there. All right, let's see if I can. And reshape this. Sorry you guys have to go through this, but tomorrow's live show will be better. Okay. Dex, so let's go over what did you think when you saw this whole thing? I guess I saw it in a different light because these guys are disappearing. I don't know if they're perished or if they took them out back. I think that these guys are being protected, and I think that they're being shielded from the public. I think these are the loyalists that he brought in to replace all these other guys. And a lot of the weird replacements, by the way, over the last year, they replaced people that if we did it in our country, it would have been insane. It would have been like walking into Senate, grabbing 3 or 4 people, bringing in like the police chief saying, hey, you got that spot, and saying, here's the water guy. We're going to put you in charge of that. And here's the electricity president or here's a general. We're going to put him in the House Speaker spot. Just like replace them straight up with who you want. And that day, they literally grabbed the people that they took their place of and took them and said, you're no longer in this position. Like that kind of craziness. This is, again, on top of Russia in that same time period actually did a full overhaul of their government and changed everything out. They changed their entire cabinet out. I mean, these were huge moves. Now, over there, something like that can be done. If it was done here, people would be freaking out. But Dex, what did you think about these guys disappearing? Do you think that they're being offed? I think that they're being hidden because they're doing something.
Well, yeah, they could be, like you say, they could be being taken care of or held back for other purposes. But the other thing I was thinking is he may be shifting and getting prepared to move more into a different mode. And we've seen some of the people he's put in place would look more wartime ready than the traditional people he had. And it could be that he's in the process of doing and setting things up because he knows he's about to shift. And that's the other question I have is, maybe these were loyal to him, but they were loyal and ideal for the time, and the time is changing, and he's getting ready to do conflict, or getting ready to take Taiwan, or getting ready to go after Philippines in the South China Sea, and things are about to escalate, and he wants to change out some of these people to make sure that they're in the right minds, the right types of leaders he needs for wartime.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing just is super, super weird. Now, hold on. I didn't mean to do that one. Hit the screen. There we go. Um, and they're framing it that it's a paranoid purge, and that they're saying that they're unstable because of this. Meanwhile, if you actually look at what has been talked about the last few days, there was a top secret spy that went on Nate's show that talked about that guy's been on all the shows. He's been on Rogan. He's been on all sorts of stuff. But I thought it was an interesting interview because he went over and talked about something that is really something that's been looked over a bunch of times, which is they have projected China to actually surpass financially the U.S. by 2029, and then now it's been moved back to 2033 because of CV. But realize this, that in the next 10 years, they are saying that the China will be financially number one. Understand what that actually means. We are number one because of our economic value on the planet. And we would, I guess, keep number one spot if we had the best in the most awesome military. But look at what is happening to our military. Look at what is happening to our economy. And I think it makes people feel a whole lot better that China is failing and that their economy is about to collapse. Meanwhile, we're not looking at ourselves and actually looking at ourselves. We are on a debt-based dollar that is based on petrol that they are telling us that they're going to switch completely off of. You don't think that they're going to reset it? How, if the dollar is literally called the petrodollar, how are we going to switch off of that onto electric without having some sort of mess happen in between? How are we going to be number one when our currency, which is used all over the world, if we're not the richest and if we're getting taken over by countries like this? How did it happen? How did they let it happen? And I honestly do think that there were people in our government that helped this happen. That's why it feels like our government's making some really weird decisions that do not help us and that hurt us, because that's what's happening. That's my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Grace, for you too. Thank you for popping in. Thank you for stopping by today. Grace, it's nice to see you here. You've been a blessing for us for years, so thank you so much for showing up and making it to a bunch of our shows. Ready, Set, Survive. Thank you, Nick. Nick Kingdoms of Verdance, Stormblade X69 Wags. Thank you, Mimi Carstel, and everybody else that stopped by yesterday. Thank you so much for supporting. And then Renegade PD, Fractured Fusion over on D-Live, One on B, WizTech, MC Dirty Work, and Animated Adventures. Thank you for keeping the D-Live family up and running. Not to mention, of course, Chance Paladin modding over there and keeping it down, along with Jammer and all of the rest of the mods. Dex, do you want to go over Israel says that it has taken out 5 Hamas commanders?
So this photograph they put out is a rare photo. It's a photo that they, I guess, got through their own intelligence or whatever, however you want to think of that, while they were huddled in a tunnel underneath one of the hospital areas, I believe, or one of the home areas. But the people that are circled are the 5 that they have eliminated, and they've also claimed to take out the majority of another set of about half of the battalion commanders as well. And I think even right now there's other headlines that are floating just recently about them surrounding leaders' homes in the strip, that they have surrounded key leaders' homes. And I guess the goal, and what we'll probably be hearing over the next day or two, in addition to these 5, is that they've gone after these leaderships from the T group there in the strip. So the photo, though, is it's from the Israeli military. They put that out, so it's probably gathered from their intelligence, or probably gathered from. It just seems odd that they took out a picture of all these people, right? Like, here's a picture, and it's recent, and we're going to show you the ones we've taken out.
Why did they have to use one?
I
know. Why did they use this one out of all pictures? They're like,
yeah.
uh, having a great
It,
time.
yeah, but nonetheless, like, who took the picture? And did the person taking the picture, did they just, like, email it out to a whole bunch of people, and that's how they got it because they just, grabbed it off of the, the free flowing data? Or did that person who took the picture have ties with the IDF and brought it back to them? Like, how did they even get this picture, let alone use it? So,
You know what would be really terrifying? What's crazy is no matter what side of the conflict you're on, obviously, you know, the when we get taken out, or if our generals get taken out, the other side shows that and celebrates it. And then when the enemy's generals get taken out, they show it like this. I think that people a lot of the times forget, if it was a perfect world, we wouldn't have war and human beings wouldn't be taking each other out. I think it's even more terrifying. Think about if you were one of these guys, uh, the brown shirt here, or the blue plaid, or this guy. They're probably seeing a picture like this. If this is true, that would be really scary. I would be happy to be the guy that got screwed up on the photo. That half his face is not shown. You always think like, if you take a group photo, there's always one person that doesn't get in the photo. But man, what a photo to show is how they took out these people. I'm sure that probably doesn't help though with all the folks that are humanizing terrorism. And then Iran claims it has sent a capsule capable of carrying animals to space. Why? We don't know either. It says Iran is claiming Wednesday to have launched a capsule into orbit that is capable of carrying animals. Telecommunications Minister Isa Zarapur told the state-run IRNA news agency that the launch of the 1,000-pound capsule, which says he went 80 miles into orbit, is aimed at sending Iranian astronauts to space in coming years, according to the Associated Press. Zarapur told state TV that Iran plans to send astronauts into space by 2029. Why? After further tests involving animals, but it's unclear if any animals were aboard the most recent launch. Now, the one thing I thought of when I first read this was, what if they send a virus-ridden animal or something and have it land somewhere, or a virus that can only have a physical host and then drop it somewhere or something. But once you see it, it's like, so why do they have space ambitions? Why are they trying to go to space? And it brings it back to a thought that I've had for a very long time, that they know something. In my gut, I feel like the very, very top of everyone that's running the planet, that they know something is coming, other than war, other than all of that. Like, they know when some big event is going to happen. If you look at all of the richest elites in the world, they're making rockets to get off the planet. Now, there's another angle there. Of course, if you don't believe that they can even get off of the planet, then it makes you wonder what the heck they're actually doing and why they've chosen the rockets and all of this stuff to do as their distraction. But to me, if they are really trying to get off this planet, why? Why is this so important? Is it just because there's money in space? Is it just because there's billions or trillions of dollars in asteroids? I don't know about that. And then just say hypothetically, if they did know about a secret asteroid hitting Earth in 10 years from now or something, what would they do? What would they change? What would they start planning on? Well, probably start planning on going somewhere else, going to another planet, or getting off the planet. They would probably start storing seeds and storing things like a Noah's Ark type thing, which, again, every country has started doing in the last 5 years. They would start making massive bunkers, like, I don't know, Elon Musk's boring company, boring tunnels all across the United States and other places. And they would start sending off things to space, which everyone is doing right now. And they would be testing to knock asteroids out of the sky. So if you look at missions like DART and Hayabusa and Osiris Apex, Osiris Rex, and the following Osiris Apex, which is when it's going to land on Apophis, it's like, why? And all of the timelines are by like 2030. It's weird to me, and I know it sounds crazy out of all of the stuff we talk about. I'm surprised that that sounds crazy, though. Look at what they're doing. Dex, go ahead.
It's interesting. There's conflicting headlines, and I'm going back to the main headline here. Some people say they actually sent animals,
Mm-hmm.
and some people say they sent the capability to send animals, and it just makes me think that they probably released the information saying capable, and in case they weren't able to come back successfully, then they would never say there was anything in it. But if they were able to come back successfully, they would say they were capable. So it's kind of interesting because there are some people that said they sent a monkey up. And so we don't really know the full story. It's one of those two. Maybe there was a monkey, maybe there wasn't. But nonetheless, they do have space ambitions. And I think that's the main point, and which is what you were talking about.
And the big question is why? Why are all of these other countries? And then, of course, that's going to drive Israel to do it as well. Israel already tried to land a lander, or not a lander, but a satellite or some sort of rover on the moon. But Israel failed and they crashed into the moon. Why, though? Just recently, throughout all of this stuff, you would assume it was all according to the conflict with Ukraine. But Russia, it leaked out that they had some sort of plan called Noah's Ark. They have more bunkers than anywhere. But would your bunkers do very well if you had a flood? I don't know. It would kind of suck if the world was flooded and you were down in a bunker, because I don't think you would ever come back out. But as far as going to space, that might be a viable option. I don't know. What do you guys think? You think it's nuts? It feels to me like they do know about something. And then like the Don't Look Up and all of the other kind of movies that have come out, the predictive programming that talks about it. The Don't Look Up one, that tripped me out because Adam McKay, his go-to thing, the one thing he's recognized for is his true to life stories. And if you look at Don't Look Up and you really, really dive deep into that, there were a lot of things in that movie that directly lined up with a few years before its release when T-Man was in office. The female president represented Trump. There were things in there that were like time-stamped. Like when she's at the computer in the very first 10 seconds of that movie, watch it. You will see Elon's tweet of something hitting the earth and destroying it, right? Elon keeps pointing these things out. He keeps putting these memes of some sort of huge disaster happening to the world, and he's the same guy trying to get to Mars. At the same time, he's now naming his AI system Grok. He's now naming it the Grok, and he's modeling it after the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which, if you know the plot of that movie, the Earth gets essentially destroyed so they can build an intergalactic highway right through it, just like we would over an anthill, right? There's a lot of weird things there. The Adam McKay movie, if you look at that, it had a lot of similarities to real life, and they said that movie, they didn't say it was about the climate or anything like that until after it came out. Before, they didn't say it was any kind of analogy to that. I didn't see a lot of that, and then until after it came out. And then they said, oh, no, but we're warning you about a real disaster. In the beginning of the movie, it says, this is based on true events that haven't happened, ... yet. That just gets me. Like, I wonder if these guys actually know. The show Salvation, that's another one that imitates Elon and helping try to defend off something coming. Dex, go ahead.
Another important thing to consider here is Iran's ambition with its missile technology. So obviously, it's been to space; it's done that before, or at least it's said it has, and put satellites and other things up. But as it continues this, this is increasing its capabilities, not just for what they may be telling us is to put humans in space, but they can also use that technology to put things into space that can damage us. And I think that's also why this is important. I mean, we may not care about if they're trying to put a monkey in space, but if they're trying to put something into orbit that can sneak around the south side and come over where our defenses are not monitoring from the south, then that's important. And I think that's what we need to, keep an eye out, just like we do with North Korea. It's the same exact thing.
And we called it. The Fugel fam called it. Everybody called this. Guyana boosts security and engages the U.S. So they're already asking the U.S. to help defend them from Venezuela. Now, Venezuela said, oh, well, we haven't actually decided we'll do it. And they said, we won't do anything without, further, any kind of other thing. But they already did a vote, basically legally approving it in their own law and country, that they could go over and take over Guyana and take it back, right? This is a resource-rich place. So, and everybody talks about how Venezuela is so. Yesterday, I saw a lot of comments saying Venezuela is so poor. Well, they had hyperinflation there. Dex, Venezuela did have. I mean, that was the worst hyperinflation we've ever seen, right? That was
that was the one we were all talking about. It was really bad. You just wheelbarrow a whole stack of their currency and to buy a
toilet paper,
roll of toilet paper. Yeah.
So that same place, but that was one of the richest places. That was, if you looked at the numbers, that wasn't a poor country. That it was the people there. A lot of the people were poor, but the country itself had a lot of money before all of that went down. And there was a lesson there for everybody to learn. But Venezuela, which nobody really pays attention to anything going on outside the U.S. here, a lot of people, we do, all of our community does. But if you talk to your friends and coworkers, I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them can't point to Guyana. They can't point to Venezuela. They can't point to Iran. They can't point to anything on a map. People fresh out of high school can't do that. They don't even know who the president is half the time. But as far as this goes, Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, China, Russia, North Korea, these are all, and South Africa, they're all going to be important in this coming war. And I'm talking about the hot war, when it actually gets hot, because we're already in World War III. Everybody is going to get on this page at some point. It's just a matter if you get on it earlier or later. But now they're going to get us involved. And if we do, and I bet you we're going to somehow help, because people are going to be calling to help, we're going to do some sort of aid package to Guyana or something, then we'll have, this is an opening for another proxy war, and stretch us even thinner. I mean, look at how many parties we're helping right now. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and Maduro has also escalated things after this session from Sunday. He's now ordering, as of Tuesday evening, that state-owned oil and mineral companies start granting exploration licenses for the deposits that are in the region they're going to take over. So they're acting as if they're heading in. They're acting as if they're going to treat it as their territory.
Yeah, so they're already kind of dotting their P's and Q's like they've already taken it. So I really, really see just this kind of obvious picture that the U.S. is going to be spread thin. When you really think about how they say financially, China's going to be bigger than us. Think about how fast they grew their Navy. Now they have the largest Navy in the world. How fast they have hit their deadlines or beat their deadlines. And then think about the whole AI thing that's going on right now. It makes you wonder if the whole AI race right now is because these countries are looking for the new nuke. They are literally looking for a new nuke. Not exactly a nuclear weapon, but some sort of weapon that is the you can't touch me kind of weapon, right? The all-powerful, world-ending weapon. That's what they're looking for. Because if you really think about it, if China surpasses us in military size and in financial size, it's going to be really hard to not have them as our overlords. So in that case, if there are good people left in our country and in our government that don't want China to be ruling us, and who knows, half of our politicians might have said, well, I want a seat at that new table, so I might as well fall in line, then we're going to have some sort of weapon that they cannot touch. And I think that they're worried about China getting that weapon before they do. They were asking for a 6-month pause on AI, and they wouldn't do that. Why would they even need just 6 months? Like, how fast is this timeline moving? And then, of course, Sam Altman got fired when he was, or Sam Altman, right? Yeah. Sam Altman, the president. And then he got taken back. Within that 2-day period, they said, oh, it's because there was letters sent to what's-his-face, or to the board, saying that he was not communicating clearly about having possibly reached or was close to reaching AGI, artificial general intelligence, super intelligence. This is something that could be turned into a weapon to end the world. They said it was a threat to humanity. And then he got hired back on right away. I mean, like, it still doesn't sit right with me. Like, I don't know if you guys feel the same. I'd love to hear your opinion on that. I think they're looking for a new weapon. I think otherwise something is going to happen because we don't have the same kind of backup that we did before. And before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Out of the many things that could happen, EMP is one of the more likely because it does not directly take life itself. If an adversary, which all of our adversaries, almost every one of them has some sort of access to an EMP or a super EMP, then if this happens, you'll want to be able to drive your car to get out, to bug out, or drive your car home to get home, to bug in. Either way, you'll want to protect it. If you put one of these on, it can actually withstand all three phases of an EMP. So any which way that an EMP comes or a Carrington level event from the sun, this will be able to ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before being able to fry your car, your truck, your boat, your motorhome, your RV, your van, again, your home, generators, gas, and in the case of the Energy Flex 1500, solar generators, and even your ham radio. There's a device for everything. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP, save $50 off per device. So if you have multiple cars to outfit, and help our channel at the same time. We are headed up to a huge uphill battle in the next year, especially with the day picking the prez coming up. As you guys have seen, some of our friends are already gone. So please help support us by sharing our show out, and then of course liking, getting this out to somebody new. But other than that, if you want to support us in a good way that will actually protect yourself too, marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right, and let's see here. Let's see. And Dex, do you want to talk the NATO Sweden, the whole deal with NATO member Sweden, or to be member Sweden?
Still to be. They were pushing hard for Erdogan to let them in, as we had talked about last week or the end of last week. But yeah, the U.S. has now announced a new cooperative agreement directly with Sweden. So specifically, some of the quotes are, "We'll create better conditions for Sweden to be able to receive support from the United States in the event of war or crisis." But basically, what they're really trying to say is, hey, the NATO thing hasn't happened yet, but in the meantime, we're going to make sure there's a tight, strong alliance between the U.S. and Sweden. So should we need to use them as we're potentially a NATO member, like putting troops there, sending equipment there, and or giving them stuff because they may need protection, the U.S. is stepping in to say, hey, we'll fill that role. We'll create that alliance. I don't think we're asking them to save our butts. We're saying we're going to save their butts. That's typically how it works with the U.S. So that's the news. There's not a lot of details other than, at a high level, there's this new agreement. But ultimately, that's pretty much what it means.
Yeah, and as far as Sweden, we did talk on a previous episode about the stuff that Sweden has, because Sweden has some crazy gear. Not to mention they have some respectable units in their military forces that have their special units that can do really crazy stuff. And then Azerbaijan, I always say this wrong, warns weapons supply to Armenia may trigger a new war. Like, are you kidding me right now? There's China, Taiwan. There's North and South Korea. There's Iran and Israel. There's India and Pakistan. There's gosh, I can't even. There's like 3 I'm missing too, in South America. Now Azerbaijan. Oh, and then Venezuela and Guyana. Now Azerbaijan and Armenia. And I understand that some of these countries have been in many wars over the years, and there's always constantly a war, even if we feel like we're at peace here or somewhere else, or if you're in Europe or in Australia, somewhere else is always in some sort of war. But when you have almost all all of the countries in some sort of gridlock with another country. How are people not seeing what's happening here? The entire world, which also teamed up on this whole CV thing as far as everybody was under the same page, it's like they all got the same memo, like, let's go to war. It, that's how it seems to me. Azeri President Ilham Aliyev on Wednesday warned France and India against providing Armenia with weapons it deems a threat. So do you see how that pulls us in? We are, of course, allies with France. And it's like France is going to possibly do some sort of proxy with them. It's like if they end up supporting Armenia with weapons, then that brings in this whole kind of jive there. Azerbaijan will have to react to protect its people should Armenia start receiving serious installations from France and India. Aliyev told a conference in Baku, saying he'd already given advance warning to everybody. The demand for Azeri leader follows 3 months after his forces launched a lightning offensive to restore full control over Nagorno-Karabakh, an area controlled by Armenians since the collapse of the Soviet Union 3 decades ago. It said that Aliyev reiterated that Azerbaijan has no intention of invading Armenia. Why is there so much talk about invasion? I mean, seriously. Everyone is talking about invading everybody else. I mean, is there something in the air? Is it just like a planetary permanent full moon out? Like, why are people going nuts right now? Merlin says, I've noticed water droplets act different than before, like gravity change. Anyone else? I don't. You'd have to tell me. You'd have to show me. What thing are you looking for there? I have not noticed that, Merlin. Thank you for the comment. Thank you for the support. So grateful to be a part of this fam. Julie Pilkerton, thank you. And Ariel's Cold Case Perspective, thank you as well. I love that, though. And then Carol, thank you. And Vanessa Stoller, thank you for subscribing just before the show. I appreciate you, and welcome to the Fugel fam. And Putin talks oil, Gaza, and Ukraine on Middle East trip to meet the Saudi MBs. As far as the leaders of Saudi Arabia, they've totally poo-pooed the U.S. Now they're cozying up with China and Russia, because China and Russia aren't saying to their countries, hey, we're going to switch you off of gas and fossil fuels and switch over to all electric. Meanwhile, these guys are now cozying up. It's like these decisions that were made by small groups of people for the greater good of the world is heavily affecting any chance we have of staying at number one. I mean, like, it's insane. And they're saying it's for the good of the planet. But why are there so many detractors? Why are there so many people doubting that this is even a thing? I've found when there's that many people saying something is fishy, then it most likely is. And then the other half that aren't, and they're quoting things that are, paid studies or something, it's like, that's the thing. It's the people that just believe things that they see versus the people that question things. Dex, as far as the Middle East trip, it's like all of our adversaries are cozying up with Saudi Arabia.
Well, yeah, and let's not forget, back in August, Vlad invited Saudi and the UAE to become members of BRICS. So they are, first on the list to be able to join, or some of the ones that were first on the list because of the invitation. So, that is, again, strengthening these new ties, and these, this is sort of clearly creating an alliance of, Western / NATO / however you want to refer to the alliance in the Pacific, against, basically the countries that are in BRICS, minus maybe India, who's sitting in the middle, and sort of playing both sides. So, but is also in BRICS. But so I'm sure the main things were, trying to figure out what they could do to probably around oil and finances, because that's the one thing he's got, and the one thing he needs to maintain his economy is to be able to drive those prices and get, ways to reconcile and sell, and settle, I should say, the transactions for oil. And of course, working close with the Saudis, there's a lot of pressure around how to manage and maintain those prices. Now I know he's under sanctions where he can only sell at a certain price, but we also know that he skirts around that quite a bit.
I was just looking at this picture here. That it's fascinating to me when you can see if you line these three guys up, you could tell what culture they're from. You could tell what their actual background is. Russia. So if you put 10 people, I mean, technically that's these are white guys, right? But you know that they're Russian. Like this guy behind him. Look at this guy. Do you see his eyebrow structure? It's like he's got this Cro-Magnon man thing, and then this evil eyebrow here. That's probably a security. This is probably some guy. Look at these guys, and then this guy. If you put this in black and white, you would think that this was from like the 30s or something. Look at his haircut, and there's certain things that's like you can just tell. What a trip. Do you guys agree? Like, if you put these three guys in a room, could you tell that those were the Russians? I guess you could tell the general area, right? And then Biden raises possibility of American troops fighting Russian troops. Huh. It's not like they're trying to desensitize us to the idea or anything and get us used to it. President JB has raised the possibility of American troops fighting Russian troops in a speech urging Congress to put aside petty partisan angry politics, which is holding up his multi-billion-dollar aid package for Ukraine. We talked about this yesterday. Well, actually, we talked about this a lot, but how the reason we were given why we're helping Ukraine in the first place, they're not our ally. They're not, I guess now they're sort of an ally, but they're not in NATO. Why are we helping them? Oh, well, they said that it's for global security, that Russia will eventually take over them and then go right into Europe, and then we'll be fighting them anyways. Many people were saying, okay, well, then let them take Ukraine, and then we will deal with it then when they start messing with NATO. If they go an inch over NATO lines, then we'll get into war and we'll put our money into protecting our real allies. But as far as this goes, they said, oh, no, but this is going to be global security. Russia's going to take over the world. Russia's going to take us all out. Russia's going to take over the world. China is going to take over the world. Why isn't there the same fear about this? I guess that it's more now, but half of our politicians are putting money in China. It's like, and I'm sure China's putting their money in them. So the fact that he's saying this, is it because he's trying to scare people into supporting Ukraine? Or is he throwing something out there that maybe he shouldn't have said something like this? It says that he's willing to make significant compromises with Republicans, but that's if they who've been unwilling to give back down from their extreme demands. This cannot wait, Biden stressed in the televised remarks from the White House. Congress needs to pass supplemental funding for Ukraine. What are you talking about? Last week we had funding for Ukraine. The week before we had funding for Ukraine. The week before, October 10th, whatever, right after this whole thing went down in Israel. In fact, the 20 million or whatever or 20 billion went to Israel, and then they put another 60 billion towards frickin' Ukraine. What do you mean needs to pass this right now before they break for the holiday recess? Dex, this is like, they're never going to stop with this.
Yeah, it's a scare tactic, but it's also interesting because it brings back the and I'm trying to remember who said it, if it was George S. or Kissinger, but one of them said, the best way for us to have a conflict in Europe was to use other people and not ourselves. And we would use a proxy to do that. And then, of course, UKR fits that bill now. So it almost sort of goes back to that narrative that that was their plan all along is, hey, the Warhawks can have this, but we've just got to make sure we're willing to sacrifice a proxy because we don't want to send our own women and children or young men and young women over there uh, to battle. And it's, of course, it's a scare tactic now to try to drum up the money. But ultimately, what does it mean? Like, let's just say tomorrow we walk away and we don't have the fund. The funding's gone, and does does Vlad march his way through the rest? Does he just hold the line and say, "Okay, I'm good. We got the territory we want. Leave us alone. We're going to go pack up and go home and be prosperous and start selling oil again, and or selling oil at a higher price again, and relieve all the sanctions." Or does he march forward and start going into Poland? And is he really looking for something more? And I guess that's the big question. You have to, and a lot of it is scared into our minds from the narratives, but at the same time, they could actually be real. And that's part of what we have to sort of decipher here. And ultimately, I don't think it really matters to the person living in, you know, the small country town here in America somewhere, except it matters if their sons and daughters go and have to sacrifice their life for that. It matters to the extent that, it can escalate to a larger scale conflict with things happening on our soil. It matters to that amount. But at the low level, most people are just like, yeah, I don't care about this. Like, let it go. We don't need to keep spending our money on it. And I get that. Totally do. And I'm not for it personally, but I think all conflict is bad.
Well, with they just keep pushing this. The thing is people don't believe it because media is saying it. I think that it is an inevitability that we will be in some massive conflict. I think that Russia will be involved. I think we will be fighting Russia. There's no way that all of this went down over the last couple of years and then they just all become friends, not without some sort of massive event. There's going to be a Pearl Harbor, 2.0, some sort of event that gets us involved in this heavily. I'm not saying I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what I see. And then everybody unites under it, and then goes for it. Make sure to go check out Energy if you haven't already looked at some of their solar generators. This is one of the best brands out there. That's why we recommend it. Energy is by far one of the best out there because it is modular. You can actually change the overall functions of it. They're continually coming out with new mods to add all sorts of new features that you probably wouldn't even think that a solar generator could do, other than the just regular features that everybody looks for in a generator. If there isn't a feature that it doesn't come with the base unit, you can get it added, like the UPS rapid charger. That turns it into a UPS system, which means uninterrupted power supply. Essentially, you plug your fridge into this into the wall, and then when the power goes out, it will immediately switch over. Not only that, it rapid charges at about 40 minutes per 1,000 watt hour battery. So one of these brick batteries charged in about 40 minutes, whereas that battery could, light a campsite for 2 weeks. Again, it's really, really amazing. As far as the expandability, it can be expanded up to 96 batteries. And it is something that you definitely want to get yesterday rather than tomorrow. There are lithium wars going on right now with that resource. So if you do want to get something like this, highly recommend getting it in the next couple years. If you are far out from affording one of these, then I would save up over the next year. Just put a little aside every chance that you get. These are great, though, because, you cannot overstress how important power is. These are really clutch when you have a storm or a power outage, just a normal one. Put aside the fact that if not even with SHTF, just with the regular storm, this comes in clutch. But if we do have SHTF, this does not take gas. You can get unlimited power as long as you get yourself some solar panels. It's very easy. As far as their solar panels, the folding panels, you plug one cord in from the solar panel into the unit and it starts gaining power. If you want multiple solar panels, you daisy chain it like Christmas lights. It's super, super easy. You won't have to deal with 8-mile long lines when everything hits the fan, or be stuck without gas because the gas stations are off. Now, having gas and solar is probably the dream for everybody. But if you were to go with one, highly recommend going with an Energy Flex 1500. Also, check out their new military version, which this is actually shipping out with the U.S. Army. The Flex Tactical was actually devised by the Air Force Research Laboratory and Energy. That one is really hard to get your hands on, so if you want one, you got to get your name on a list right now. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It helps you save, and it helps us with our channel. It reinforces the growth of the channel, and it helps us support our families. And then Zelensky turning Ukraine into authoritarian state, just like Russia, says Kiev mayor in shocking interview. Why is it that all of the people in Ukraine, the people right underneath Zelensky, are the one who's throwing him under the bus? It seems like an operation to me. It seems like the people that are in charge of this whole thing, it's crazy because JB is, right now asking for more funds for Zelensky in this conflict. Meanwhile, the people right underneath Zelensky are either getting arrested or saying that they're failing or saying that it's corrupt. And so is it just like JB and Zelensky? Oh, don't worry about what anybody says. Well, these are my generals. These are the people right under me. This is this is my VP. Don't worry about him. Don't worry about it. You'll get a payment in your account. Don't worry about it. And by the time they do catch us, we'll be in, Switzerland or something. I don't know. I don't understand this. But yeah, saying that it is turning into an authoritarian state. Right off the bat, UKR essentially clamped down on all journalism. Many people have pointed out how in UKR, there was almost no video out. They would not. This is one of the first times I remember, first time definitely while I was covering stuff, where they would not let reporters embed in the beginning of this. Do you remember that? They told us that they would not let them embed in, a journalist going with the troops and actually taking account of what was going on. So something is not right. And then, of course, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is becoming an autocrat who is reshaping Ukraine into an authoritarian state no different than Russia. Kiev mayor Vitaly Klitschko has shockingly claimed. Klitschko, a former heavyweight boxing champion turned politician, gosh, doesn't that sound like the side quest of a video game or something? Took the unprecedented step of publicly attacking Zelensky, an ex-comedian and actor, which a lot of people really don't know that, so vehemently for the first time since Russia's invasion of UKR 21 months ago. So this guy is basically saying that it is an authoritarian state. Do you believe him? I don't know. Well, in martial law in most places, like they can do martial law because they're at war, they're losing power. And if they do have power, it's under control of the military. It's like, well, I don't doubt that it's authoritarian there. The reporters can't report on certain things. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's see. Let's go over here to chat real quick. Now, unprovoked my arse. Paul Saul, what's going on? Naughty Kitten. Let's see here. Good evening. Hey, Running Turtle. Nice to see you. American Argonaut. I trust Klitschko far more than Zelensky. That's unfortunate. Just like the CIA op that overthrew the last government in UKR when it was under the Obama administration. These folks have a big agenda. Quote, it is finished. Fulfill does not mean do away with. Yeah. Brian Knight, howdy. What's going on? Hey, how are you doing? An acting comedian. Yes, that's right. And his last job was acting like a president in a show where he was a nobody who rose to the top unexpectedly, again, and became the president. That's just really funny. In the show, he pretends to be a president. You know what I want to see? I want to see clips of him in that show. I want to watch that actual show where he pretended to be a president. And I want to see how close it is to his his presidential speeches. I want to see him acting like a president compared to him being a president. Is it the exact same? You know what I mean? How often? I mean, we had Reagan, right? Reagan was an actor. We had a governor. We had Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's not going to get any Emmys, or I guess he might have, but He's not going to get any Oscars, right? Um, but I don't. Have we ever had a president that was an actor that played in a movie or a show where he was a nobody that turned into the president? And then in real life it happened and people are supposed to think that this is some sort of fairy tale success story? Come on. It's just stupid. Like, people are really that dumb. RFK Jr. insists that there was nothing wrong with him flying twice on EpiPen's plane with his wife, and he never went to the infamous island. 2024 candidate calls for all flight logs to be released after defending his trips, which they won't, because half of the people on that list are the same people saying to release them. Like I said yesterday, Dex, isn't that funny? I just was talking about that last night, saying they won't do it because the people, even the people saying that they need to be released, are on those logs.
Of course, they're not going to release any of that. There's too many people in power on there that have the power to not release it. That's for sure. But look, this statement is I think he's just, he got caught on it, or called on it in an interview, and he fessed up to it right away. Um, but at the same time, he's trying to downplay it and just be like, well, it's just a jet ride. I just took a trip to Florida, and he said he was with his his former wife or ex-wife, Mary Richardson Kennedy, who allegedly had a relationship, some sort. He says some kind of relationship with Ghislaine. So that doesn't make it any better. That actually makes it more strange. And by the way, his ex had perished by herself in 2012 by taking herself in 2012. So to whatever
RFK's wife did?
yeah, his former ex-wife, Mary Richardson Kennedy, who perished by the Sioux
Yeah.
word in 2012. Yeah, that's what it says. I didn't know that. I don't know much
I didn't
about
know that
their history.
either. How does nobody
But
talk about that?
yeah, but he goes on to say that, before all that, she had the relationship, and that through that relationship, they were offered a flight to go to Palm Beach, where he took his then wife and kids to go visit their mother or grandmother or something like that. Um, and he also said that there was something else that he said about, with little explanation, that at one point he'd gone fossil hunting in South Dakota with EpiPen. So again, that shows there's a little bit more than just an acquaintance. I mean, heck, you got to have decent relationship with someone for them to just let you borrow their jet. Like, I mean, you don't just find a random acquaintance and say, "Can I borrow the jet, please?" Who gives out the jet, so to speak? Only if they're trying to get power or wield power or gain influence would that happen. And so just about everybody that's been on that jet has some form of connection, including people that you want to support around here that have had connections there it's all questionable. Every bit of it should be questioned. Every bit of it.
Both sides. Everybody was on those planes. Everybody that is a rich and elite. And that's why a lot of folks are saying it's two wings to the same bird. Okay. Then when you go a step deeper, you start wondering if all of it, and again, because people, they pick their side and they think, oh, my side's the right side, and those guys are crazy, and those guys are brainwashed. What if everybody is brainwashed? That's when you step out completely out of the matrix, then you start seeing that every side is brainwashed. The before, I think that, I don't know. I do believe Tucker was kind of the exception. A lot of people don't think that he was, but I think that he got kicked out. Anybody that was real got kind of booted. But before, the right leaning angle, I have seen stuff on Twitter that I'm like, God, you are just so nasty. Right leaning creators that are just so over the top. And the things that they point out, I'm like, why are you pointing out just like, they'll post something of like an overweight person just doing a video, and I'm like, why does this have relevance to like a right versus left politics thing? She's overweight, and it's like, it's not a video where she's saying overweight is a good thing or anything. It's just her being overweight and basically saying, look at this overweight person. I'm like, why is that a right leaning thing? Or and they all copy each other. They, like, one week on Twitter, it was like all the right leaning biggest accounts, they all just and I'm saying copy, like they take the same video, put it out. It will be like this week they'll all be posting videos of weird, you know, they say liberal or art shows, weird art shows of people with dresses upside down and duck suits and things like this. I can get some of that, but then just like shaming human beings that aren't doing anything politically, aren't making a point, like that kind of stuff I don't get. So, and then people going over the top and just being nasty to people and saying that they're worthless and pieces of crap and stuff like that. I don't get that. There's a lot of things that I don't get about both sides, and that's why I never really claimed to be one side or the other. In fact, I would have considered myself 30, 40 years ago, before I was born, I would have considered myself a liberal or somebody who was left leaning. But now left leaning has changed. If you were a liberal back in the 60s, you are now a Republican, and you're probably on the extreme side now. That's how it's changed. The middle has moved way out here. The left has moved to middle. And now whatever they're doing right now is just on both ends is super, super extreme. And it's all in the last like 10 years. I mean, it's really gotten bad. Before that, it was in colleges. Before that, it was, in the elite circles and things. But other than that, it's like, you guys realize that most of this change is in the last 10 years. I think it's crazy. Now, RFK is, I technically that book that he did on the CV thing was good, but I just wonder if they purposely release some information so then it goes quiet on it, Doomsday Community wants people to live in 575 bunkers for when all hell breaks loose. A Doomsday Community is in search of residents to live in 575 bunkers, which can reportedly fit up to 10,000 people. In the Black Hills Mountain Range in South Dakota, a former Army base which stored munitions has been repurposed into bunkers. The base has been since transformed into livable bunkers aimed at providing the epic humanitarian survival project, not just for the top 1%. Dante Vicino, executive director of Vivos, who runs the Doomsday Bunker, told AbsolutelyBusiness.com, average people can now reserve their spot for when all hell breaks loose. Vivos, now known as an epic humanitarian survival project, is fully prepared for whatever and whenever events unfold. One thing I think is, so just about a week and a half ago, we got a really crazy heads up. So they are asking at the most elite places, these places are like minimum $2 million for the smallest space in one of these communities, and not this one. Like this is again saying it's for more the average people, right? We're talking about a $2 million minimum just to hold your spot. That doesn't include a lot of the stuff. That might include, this, but it doesn't include they estimate on how much is there, whatever else, how many people will you end up have. Some of these people are spending 50, 60, $100 million on their spots for when everything hits the fan. And it makes you wonder, like, they're going to put that much money aside that's just gone now, already given up to some place just to hold their spot, and they don't believe something's going to happen? I don't believe that. But these places, just at least 4 of the top most elite places, we got really, really lucky. There was a person who is close to those places. I'm trying not to say the wrong thing here, but they use, let's just say this, they use private companies that all have security clearances for all of those places. So just say technically, if they do anything on property, they have a contractor for it, they have a driver for it, they have this for it. They don't let anybody out to these private places that does not work inside the companies. So if they do something that is outside the circle of what they do, they will have one of their people do it, and or somebody that comes in and stuff. It's very, very rare. But somebody who does do things with all 4 of these places said that they just asked their clientele for souvenirs, and to basically they would send a pod to their home, and everything that you could not grab in the 15-minute time period, to send that to the actual unit that they plan to live in. So if they already put their $2 million on a condo, They asked them to get the stuff that they could not grab in 15 minutes. Family heirlooms, artwork, things, family photos, things like this. They're asking them to load up a pod and bring it to these places. Now, I got to further ask, like, is this something they do a lot? And he said no, but they will do it during high risk situations. So if the owners of these places, are connected with intelligence. These owners are former military. They are very high up ex-military that own and run these places. So they still have current connections in that world. The whole point of a lot of these and the whole selling point is that these groups know beforehand when something is going to happen. And they will have a few minutes before everybody else because they got a tip or a heads up. They have a direct line to, the Secretary of State or something, or they have a direct line to a 5-star general. That is why they get the selling point on it. They are now telling them to load up the things that you wouldn't expect to load up um, unless it was really about to be go time. And that's what really kind of got us. So that is a verified person that works for these places, and they're asking for them to fill up a pod. So if you, I don't know, if you drive by a mansion and see a couple pods in the door, maybe ask them what they're doing with them. um, Dex and I talked about it, and it was like we thought maybe it would be something that they would do, on a regular basis. If there was a high risk situation, do it and then bring it back. I don't think so. Maybe they do though. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a drill. That's not a drill type scenario. What that is if the top class out there is getting ready to bug out, this is the first step. If they were getting ready to bug out planned as opposed to bugging out unplanned. So, and when I say planned, meaning they know that there's something that's about to go down, they've been told, and they're getting their preparations in order. This is the first step. What is the junk you need to bring or store that's not going to be left at home when it gets taken over? And that's what the pod is for. So, like, put those family heirlooms, those pictures, or whatever it is you got to have. That's what it is. So, obviously, the very first step. And if they're doing that, that's a warning sign. The other interesting thing, though, coming out of this article from Mr. Vincino, who I guess is the developer of this community, Vivos X Point, he said that inquiries and applications are up over 2,000% year over year, and sales are up 300% and growing exponentially. So obviously, we all know interest is high in bunkers. And the last thing is, gosh, man, nothing about this screams that movie or that television series. Now I just forgot the name of it. Where they all Silo, 10,000 people. He wants to host 10,000 people underground. The TV show Silo, those silos hold 10,000 people. It just made me think about it. Now I know his situation is many, many bunkers, not all in one. Whereas Silo, the TV show, is all in one giant underground system. But sometimes fiction it becomes reality.
Yeah, art imitates life, or is life imitating art? Right? It's freaky to see that all of this is happening, and you could say that if there's a high probability that they would do these things. So if their people find that there's an 80% chance something could happen, and it's not guaranteed, maybe that's when they fill up the pods. Maybe that's why they send out the pods to have this done. At the time when we found this out, that was when it was really at a peak where there was 5 days straight of this whole white lung thing. Maybe these groups said, hey, just as a precaution, maybe we need to get stuff going. That same day, Costco's were lined up for hours. It's weird because then people just forget about it. Maybe because of those lines that were outside of Costco's, there was like 5-hour lines outside of Costco, just like the beginning of CV. Maybe people in the government said, oh, we're scaring the crap out of them. We went a little too far or something, and then pulled back on it because we haven't heard about it at all. Dex, have we heard anything about the it was like that after that day? It was the next day. All of a sudden, it's just disappeared.
Yeah, it seems like it's silent.
That's weird. Do you guys not think it's weird that we're not hearing about this, the kids' cases?
Yeah, and they tried to dampen it by telling us, "Oh, don't worry." They had
Yeah.
all these experts come out and say, "Eh, it's nothing," while they're scrambling in all these locations. And I'm sure we'll get some more stuff later. But and remember, even China came out and said, "Hey, you have to squash the story. You can't talk about it no more. We want to bury it."
Yeah, they and look at how media did it. So think about how much media that China owns. They do all these stories on it. The second that China says you need to squash this story about the pneumonia thing, all of a sudden it's gone. No mainstream media is covering it. Why? You see my point? That's really concerning. Shoot, if they say, "Hey, John Cena, we need you to grovel and beg," what's going to happen? We got ourselves a WWF uh, beggar. Gee, I am so sorry, so sorry. That was John Cena. Just so they wouldn't take Fast and Furious out of China. LeBron James bent the knee. Heck, a lot of movies and media has bent the knee. And before we talk about the world's biggest super yacht, just a reminder, if you do want to get prepared food that is, again, going to last 25 years, go to marfooglenews.com/prep. If you just want to get it done, you can get different denominations. You can get 72-hour kit. The biggest discount is if you go bulk. You can get 3 months of food that's all neatly packaged, very, very efficiently packaged, so it's easy to store. You get the buckets that are double sealed with food in Mylar bags that you just add water or cook in water, and it brings it back to life. Freeze drying keeps all of the most all of the nutrients compared to dehydration, and it keeps almost all of the flavor in. And you can eat it 25 years from now. That's inflation kind of saver there. As far as who knows what a food will cost in 25 years from now, but that's why people are looking at this almost as an investment. In 10 years from now, do you buy a box of $15 macaroni and cheese, or do you go into your pantry and eat one of these? It's something that you got to think about. Again, this is good for storms, for earthquakes, for hurricanes, for any kind of emergency scenario. It is definitely good to have on hand. Every family is recommended to have 6 months of food per person right now. That's coming from the DHS. They say that is it just in case of a risk of a grid down in our country. That came directly from the DHS EMP resilience report. So if you want 6 months, that's steep. This is one of the most affordable ways to do prepackaged freeze-dried food. We also have other brands that, again, if there's a whole wide varying, this is really affordable food that you can survive with. And again, it is very well done as far as the system and how they have it packed. It's really good. But we have different brands and stuff. If you want, there's different brands that are focused on nutrition. There's different brands that are focused on packaging and spacing. There's all sorts of different brands. We share all of them because we believe that you should have the choice. And honestly, you could get one of each. That's a really good thing to think about. marfooglenews.com/prep. You can also get different gadgets there, like the Alexa Pure water purifier. Definitely recommend having some way to purify water. That is something that is a commercial grade purifier there. So check it out. And then world's biggest super yacht submarine worth $2 billion is 3 times bigger than Britain's nuclear subs and comes with a pool and a chopper. I've talked about these a lot, and these fascinate me as far as these super yachts. I don't believe anyone's even seen a real one yet. These are so secretive and so unbelievable. It's absolutely nuts. That's funny that the stock photo from random read more submarines. the whatever that was called. That
I think we have one in the next tab.
So I know, but what was that submarine that collapsed? That crunched?
Oh yeah, was it a Trident or something?
Whatever.
The one that went to the Titanic, right?
Yeah. That they showed that. Well, they're talking about their awesome submarine. Like that's put the wrong thing in my head.
And poor ad targeting.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Look at this. So, and I've shown you guys these too. This is unbelievable. And why are billionaires buying these things? Who is there a market for this? How many people can possibly buy these? Here, think about this. There, I'm sure there's a bunch of billionaires out there, but when you really come down to the amount of billionaires that also would buy this and would be able to afford $2 billion on a yacht and or on a submarine, it takes so many of these to be able to have a company that actually focuses on building them and building multiple of them. You have to have demand, right? There's demand. There's demand for a $2 billion 5 football field. I mean, they have it pictured next to like a huge blue whale, and it's just trumped by it. Um, to put it into perspective, they have it here with like a jet ski. That's how big it is, but they say 3 times as long as a British sub. They use a British sub because I think the British subs are smaller, but this is bigger than I believe some of our biggest nuclear subs. Now, this is an animation of this. This, I don't know if this is AI or what. Dex, do we know if this is a real photo? Where?
I'm sure it's an animation,
Oh, this
or
is. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
rendered. But it's got a 36-person dining room, and the whole walls of the dining room are under the water in glass, so you can see out. I mean, this is just it's ridiculous. But your point is spot on. Nobody is going. So you can't. It takes billions to build this, let alone to sell it for $2 billion. So you're not going to get financing. No company or no bank or no investors are just going to say, "Oh yeah, let's throw a bunch of money at you so you can go build this thing," without thinking that there's really a buyer. But how many buyers in the world are there for this? Probably a very small handful. But like you said, that means they have to have demand. They probably already have signatures online saying they will buy it if it comes out. That way they could get funding to build this and produce it. This is massive. These are the same people that did the floating islands, its own floating island with like 10 suites or something on it. Looks like a giant pontoon, massive pontoon looking island that floats around.
Yeah, this is I mean, like, this is so crazy because you know that there's these rich folks out here that are buying these, and you're not going to see them at port. You're going to these are so secretive that the owners don't have to declare who they are. The newspapers aren't going to say Bill Gates out on his super sub. Then if they are so secretive, you're never going to ever see these out in public. Then what are they actually for? Is this for some sort of Noah's Ark thing? Like the world's about to flood and these guys are going to ride it out in something like this? It makes you wonder. Who needs a super sub like this? Somebody said that's some Dr. Evil shiz. Yeah, this is real Dr. Evil. Mr.
1,500 feet underwater for multiple weeks.
That's insanity. That's just insanity. And it's coming to light. We talked about this as a rumor before, but they're saying that this is really happening. This is going to go down. And they say that there've already been models of these purchased. Another company a few years ago, we covered that there are rich people with these somewhere out in the ocean. Probably maybe that's why we can't go up to the Arctic. There's a bunch of rich people up there, like in that show, Murder at the End of the World. Zuckerberg and his friends are hanging out.
Hey, bonus, while you're on the actual article, scroll down right in the middle of all of the text. You'll see a highlight that says its own floating islands. It's a blue link.
Oh yeah. We covered that before.
Yeah, click that one too, because they show it now paired up, your floating island with the submarine. There's some better pictures down below, but yeah. This is the other thing that this Migaloo company is building. And who is buying these? These are like $400 million. They have 10 suites and a penthouse. And they're massive when you see it compared to that sub sitting beside it.
It's as big as an oil rig. That's what this is. I mean, this is bigger than an oil rig.
Yeah, and it goes 9 miles an hour. So you can actually take it around. You can go drive it around the globe as long as you've got fuel.
9 miles an hour. That's just insane. To be on an island and the island can go wherever you want it. Like that is truly just where you don't know what to do with all of your money. Where you could buy every NFL team, which is the point that they're at. There's that website that shows you how much Bill Gates' money, and it has all of these examples of what you could buy, and you can take his money, how much money he has, and then you can select like buy NFL team, and it shows the most expensive NFL team, and then you say buy all 50 or whatever, and it subtracts the amount of money, and then you realize that he still has billions and billions of dollars. Then you buy 10 skyscrapers and it subtracts the money, $10 billion. And it's like, oh, you still have 150 billion to spend. You can buy 10 islands, 10 big islands, populated islands. And it's like, oh, you still have $10 billion left. That's how much money these people have. And you don't think that they're secretly pulling strings? When you have enough money to give, think about this, any politician, their entire life, their yearly salary, right? When you're able to say you make $250,000 a year, Senator, okay, you give them $1 billion and it doesn't even phase you. That's going to be that senator's whole life times 50,000. Do you think that senator's not going to go turn around and do everything they can to do whatever the heck they asked? Oh, but well, they'll see that money. No, because they have Swiss bank accounts and offshore shell accounts and all of these different ways that they can hide this money. I think a lot of that is what's going on with the UKR and maybe a country like China, that maybe this is how they are possibly paying politicians off or something. Dex, go ahead.
Speaking of Gilly Bates, I read an article today. They said he makes $11 million a day, and that is today. That's the estimate today. Like he would have made a lot in the past, and he's no longer one of the most richest people. Obviously, it's Elon and others, and Bezos and those guys that are sitting at the top. But even at his level, which is down below, $11 million a day. It's 4 times what the average person earns in an entire lifetime, and he makes that in one day.
And you wonder why people hate you. Oh man. And we're like struggling to go get groceries. It can get you down, but I would say this. Gilly's not going to find true happiness. He's all that money and he's not going to be happy. He's not happy at all. He's not. The entire world talks trash about him. You could be the richest person in the world. You can buy your own island and pay people to fake like they like you, but you're not going to be happy. Like I know that I have moments with my kids that by far will be worth more than $1 trillion. What do you guys think though? I bet some people would trade everything for this kind of lifestyle. Of course, who wouldn't say that they wouldn't want to own one of those? Like people can say, oh no, I wouldn't own it. I would sell it and live in a van. You can be like Elon, like, oh, I'll live in a 50 square foot container. But I think he does that so people think he's, humble. Because reputation and power, and reputation is sometimes more important to people than power. They care about what people think about them. I don't know though. I mean, if somebody gave you that, yeah, you could sell it and then buy the most beautiful home in the world and then take the rest of the money and have all sorts of fun. So yeah, I think most people would. But if they said, here, you take this, you can't sell it, would you live on it? Heck yeah. You kidding? It's a rolling island or a floating island. Dex, do you want to tell people how to get to these links? Lots of really crazy things here.
Absolutely. Head over to marfooglenews.com. You can click on the thumbnail for the show, or you can hit the show notes link that is down below in the description. It'll take you right here to this page. You can go check out all these pictures about the floating islands and the submarines and everything else we covered. It's all right there. We source it for you every night, including the infamous Doomsday community that's for the average man. you think that that's something for you, go take a look. It's there, all of it, and all the other stuff we talked about. Marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or hit the show notes link down below in the description.
And speaking of which, it's like, many people compare us to Rome. And
Show notes link.
if you don't see the comparisons, I'd highly recommend. I'm gonna tomorrow night we're gonna talk about some different stuff too. As far as some of the reasons why people are saying that, it really is quite insane that we are pointing the finger at everybody else, saying that they're failing, yet we have a national debt that is just getting astronomical. We are having problems even having regular citizens affording to go to the grocery store. And we're looking everywhere else. Why are we not looking inside our country to see what we can do? Why aren't they getting up on a pedestal saying, begging Congress, we need $50 billion for Detroit. We need $1 billion for Oregon. We need $1 billion to clean up San Francisco. Why is that not the issue right now? It's really sad. And I think that at some point people are going to stand up and people are going to be out in the streets, and it's not going to be about, it's not going to be about like, oh, this is in schools or something. It's going to be like, we're not taking it anymore. You guys have a wonderful night. Thank you to the mods. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. You have access to all of them. If you want to stick around, again, I'm going to say thank you to the people that matter most. Thank everybody that joined us today. Ilea, Google Earth, 10755 Bunker Road, Edgemont. It's crazy. So many bunkers. I will have to do that. Dex, if you're still there, maybe we can, if you can screenshot a couple of those, I'll show them during the shoutro. Joseph McCorkle, thank you for subscribing. Julie Pilkerton, thank you for the back-to-back support. Danish Girl, thank you so much for your support today. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Carol White, thank you. FG, thank you as well. Carol, I appreciate you. Ariel's Cold Case Perspective. And Merlin, thank you, thank you, thank you. Julie Pilkerton, Neil Nelson, and everyone else that popped in today, thank you so much. Again, we'll pop in and join us over for the shoutro. If you appreciate bad music and the creation of it, then join me. We'll see you in just a minute. Thank you, Dex. Love you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. You're in the new home. It's collapsing, you know. We're in the new home. We're in the new home. You're in the new home. It's collapsing, you know. We're in the new home. We're in the new home. You're in the new home. It's collapsing, you know. We're in the new home. We're in the new home. You're in the new home. It's collapsing, you know. We're in the new home. We're in the new home. You're in the new home. It's collapsing, you know. We're in the new home. We're in the new home. All right, let's see. Let's see here. I'm actually going to look for, hold on. Road. Edgemont. Aha. Vivos X Point Shelter. So I wonder if these are all, and this is, we've talked about it. We've covered these specific ones here. So let's see here. So many bunkers. Look at this. So these are the ones that they're talking about. and then of course you can see the inside of them. They're to me, and I don't know what you will need, but these aren't very. I mean, they're exposed. The front wall is exposed. I don't know. Maybe during a regular one this would be okay, but I just feel like you need to be really, really far underground for this kind of thing. These have the front entrance like right there, and they're technically above ground in this case. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Alrighty. And of course, thank you, Aliyah. Thank you, Danish girl. You are our top supporter tonight. Thank you. Let's make a fresh one for Danish girl. Is somebody there? Hello? Hello?